Hail and welcome, friends. Wicker's Crane here. They, them. Today I'm going to show you how Wickers does it. I have 3 6-foot pickets here. We're going to convert them into crosses. I've noticed a lot of people around town have them in their yards upside down, so I'm going to show you how to do it the right way up today. They're only like $3 at the hardware stores, piece of cake. So you're going to need some paint or lacquer or something like that if you want to seal them, or if you don't want to do the wood burning route, which a lot of people do. So I'm going to use a dark coat of sealer and then a bright coloring for my lettering. You'll want a saw of some kind in order to cut the wood planks into 2 pieces so you can make your cross shape. And I've also got here a measuring tool, this little tape measure, and sketch pad. So you should measure ahead of time, sketch things out, make sure they're the way you want them. Also helps with spacing out your letters and stuff ahead of time, get an idea where things got to go. I'll sketch that on the wood later with my pencil that it's gotten to. And yeah, if you want to go the hammer route and nails, you can. But yeah, we're going to use screws today because if you want anything to stay where it is for more than 3 days, you're probably going to want to use a screw. We also have a stencil here. It's just a piece of cardboard. I'll use that to cut out my letters later on. So yeah, I think that's it for tools and materials. So let's get started. So like I said before, these are 6-foot lengths. We're going to go ahead and keep 1 foot in the ground, and then we can use the rest to make our cross shape above ground. Just to show you that 6 feet. I'm going to make the mark here at the 5-foot line, just to remember where that is, the base. And then we're going to cut off 2 feet, and that will make our height longer than our width, so it's obvious the shape we're going for. So now I have my marks. I'm going to go ahead and grab my saw, and I'm just going to cut that right off. We're doing that outside. So here we are. We've got my 3 planks, and we're going to go ahead and cut them off. And this is pretty simple. A hand saw will do. You don't have to be a carpenter or need the help of a carpenter in order to do this at all. So here we go. One's a little rough, but it's good to do it a few times, and you make a few extras while you're going. You can share with your friends. I like to see them around the neighborhood with these. Perfect. Ratio there. There we go. All right, I'll meet you back inside. All right, so we're back inside. So here we have 2 pieces for my first, and sketch pad, measuring tape, pencil. You're going to want this to accommodate your lettering, whatever you're going to use on your cross. So I kind of measured it out, and from the top of my top letter to the bottom of my bottom letter is going to be about 2 feet. So I'm just going to kind of measure that out and see where things are laying. I think that top letter is going to start 1.5 inches, maybe an inch below the top. So 2 feet's going to put me here. Right about there. Now, I almost made a mistake there because I hadn't thought about my foot under the ground. This would have been laying right on the ground. So yeah, remembering where that is, good idea. We get that up there, and there's 2 feet, and we'll add an inch for the top. So right about there, and then I'll mark the bottom so we know where it lays now. I'll go ahead and hit the top too, why not? It's pencil, so you can erase, you can write on it. If you don't have a stencil, you can always pencil in and erase your lettering later as you experiment with your shapes, but I highly recommend using pen and paper first. It'll save you a lot of time. And then I want this guy to be centered, this friend. So this is 2 feet in length, like I said before, so that 1 foot mark should be right in the middle. And we've got her right there. So just make a couple of quick marks here. Zoop, zoop. And then I said I was going to use screws, so I'm just going to go ahead and kind of do a quick marking generally where I want my screws to be. I'm going to keep them out of the center so that my lettering doesn't get disrupted. And yeah, there we go. I'll see you back outside. We're going to do some drilling. Actually, we should do the lettering first. I'm unsure about that. We can edit this out. All right, so I decided to make my stencil first, and it's pretty simple. You just take the piece you want to overlay with the stencil, and you take your pencil and you make a mark. And this graphite will show up against dark colors and light colors because of the sheen in the metal. So I can see it. I'm not sure if you can on camera, but there's an outline right there of my short piece. And we're just gonna need up to the top line. I don't know if you can see it, it's right about here. So I'll make a hash mark here. And I'll line up to my hash mark, a little bit away, and we'll finish that line off. So then I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna do my lettering on each piece, and then we'll cut them out. So I'm going to be using these industrial shears. They're good for leather and cardboard and stuff, tough things. You may struggle with regular scissors. And then I also have a basic X-Acto set, so I can actually do some fine cutting out of my lettering. Don't worry if it looks rough. This is meant to be something that looks homemade and a product of your own work. So whatever it looks like in the end, you can be satisfied with it because it's yours. So here we go. So just a detail on your lettering. Basically, what you want to do is count the letters that you're going to place on that particular space so that you know how many spaces of equivalent size that you're going to want. So I'm going to want 10 on my long piece, which should be 3 feet. Wait, this is the short piece. Wait, I don't know. Oh, that's right, we cut a foot off. So actually, you just got two 2-foot pieces, basically. So, my long piece, I've got 10 letters, and then I'm going to have the 11th letter overlap with the lettering on the crossbeam. So that here is 23 inches actually. So I have about 2.3 inches for each letter. We're going to cut this down an inch for the gap at the top, so it'll be about 2 inches for each letter. And I'll start at the base of my lettering and work my way up to the top so that I know that they're going to interact well at that crossroads there. So there's two more. Yes, coming along nicely. And the top one. All right, so now I know about how my letter spacing is going to go, and I'm just going to freehand that in with the pencil. And I'll do the same down here. Yeah, so here we go. All right, so I did something here that just kind of helped myself out. I went ahead and did my lettering off to the side of my stencil. I'm just kind of trying it out and getting the spacing right. And once we get it together, it should all work out correctly. When I cut my letters, I'm going to make sure to leave little tabs on the lettering so that the stencil doesn't collapse when I paint it. There's basic like stencil letter shapes you can find online, I'm sure, but I just kind of will wing it. So just a little time saver here. You don't necessarily have to measure out each one if you're going to make multiples like I am. So like I said, I have 3 6-foot pickets I'm converting into crosses. And basically I just clamped my one piece on here with my pilot hole or my pilot marks where I'm going to drill outside in a moment. But first, to keep things easy on myself, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate my markings on my other pieces. This will kind of speed things along for me. Time is money, as they say. So you're making money, basically. Now this looks a little tricky, but basically you just take the outside, and it should also be the same length on both sides. So there's my first mark. Got a little nub here. Yeah, snap that off. And other side. So that lines up nicely. It helps if you make your cuts well. But I'm trying to keep things cheap here, so we got the cheapest pickets I could find, and obviously we don't want to be using up all the wood in the world, so this might be a good project for when you're replacing an old picket fence. Take those old pickets, they're going to have some nice character and look like they've been there a while. And if they're not too weathered, you'll still have a good outcome. So I'm going to pop outside and drill those holes now. All right, friends, so we're outside. Just a few notes before we go any further. I should have been wearing safety glasses before when I was running the saw. I do have my regular spectacles, which provide limited protection, but if anything comes in this way, you're kind of screwed. And then speaking of the screws, so I've selected some leftover screws that we had. You can see there's some debris left in there from the last time these screws were used. Again, we don't want to be mining every inch of the earth for screw metal, so whatever you have laying around is going to be helpful to you. Another safety issue, when rigging any kind of power cabling, you want to rig from the load where your equipment is to the source where the power comes from, and you want to unrig from the source where your power comes from to the load. So I plugged the extension cord in to the power drill here, and then I plug it into the wall. That way you don't have any kind of weird sparking and stuff like that when you're making connections, because there's not live electricity. And then when you disconnect it, you do it in reverse order. Disconnect from the wall, and then disconnect your tool as if this was still live. When you disconnect it, you could get a spark, and that could possibly create a safety issue. Back to the screws. So what I like to do is select one that's just slightly smaller than the inner diameter of the screw. You can see the threads come on outside of that inner shaft, and my screw I like to make just a little bit smaller than that, so there's some good pressure, but not too much that's going to split your wood. Also a good idea to drill a small pilot hole, even if you're going to use a nail. Just make sure to keep the hole just a bit smaller than the nail, otherwise your nail will just kind of float and do nothing. So also refurbished power tool that I found in an estate sale. Didn't work when it was found, but if you know a skilled technomancer in your area, they can open it up for you and clean the brushes or even replace them. But again,
refurbishing things saves us a lot of wear and tear on our resources and the planet. So this does need to reach through both pieces of wood. I'm cutting both at the same time here, and it does. My screws, also check your screw length and make sure that that does reach into your second piece of wood. These are actually a bit long, but I do have a metal file, so I'm going to install them and just file them off. In this project, it's not terribly important to be super accurate with your holes. You just want them to be there. Also, I'm using a clamp here to hold the wood in place. This isn't my favorite method. I prefer to have friends that help me hold things. I also have a little block here that's keeping the wood down for me. But you don't necessarily want a lot of hands in here where the drilling's going on, so clamps are preferred. And there we go, 4 holes. I'll do it 2 more times and we'll see you back inside. So just a quick note, I noticed when I'm cutting my second piece, that little cheat I used to make my lines actually leaves them lying just outside of the wood. So make sure that you place them so that they're equally spaced along the center line here. If you do just line up with one side, you may find that you've actually moved your beam over just a bit. So here we go. So just another quick note here, when I drill my holes, I did freehand all the secondary ones, so they're not going to be exactly the same. So I marked each piece 1, 2, and 3 respectively, so that I knew which ones lined up. Also, I made a little hash mark on the line so that the orientation is displayed, and then we'll know what we're doing. So here we go. All right, so we're going to go ahead and screw the first one, which in this case is number 3. So the first ones, I'm going to use these little flatheads. You may countersink your holes if you like, but I don't really care. I'm just going to drive them on in there. I could use the power tool at this point, but again, this is cheap wood, and you're more likely to get a split if you use high impact. But just take your time, enjoy yourself. This is meant to be for you, this little project, to distract you from your regular problems. It's a problem of your own creation, and should bring you some amount of joy, because that's not really a problem at all. And also got cardboard down underneath here. I'm using my stencil, and I think I'm going to abandon the stencil and freehand, but I'll just use the stencil as a guide for where the letter placement should be. You may go ahead and cut out your letters, but it's very time consuming, and it can be difficult to make in such a way that you could mass produce. I may go back and do that in the future using these templates, but for now, I simply would like to proceed. So we're going to screw these babies together. And once we get them together, we're going to go ahead and we're going to spray paint the outside a nice matte black. We've got this satin canyon black, and that will prevent too much sheen when this is displayed outside in the daylight, so that passersby can read the sign and they won't just see a glare coming off of your beautiful piece of art. It's nice to whistle while you work. keep some music on. I would have radio playing normally when I'm doing stuff like this, but I want you guys to be able to hear what I'm saying. This is a good little tempo exercise right here. And you'll see these screws are a bit longer than my the depth of my 2 pieces of wood, so they will come through into the cardboard and hopefully not all the way through into the table. We may use a piece of wood or some other disposable item. Hey guys, hey, what you doing? Dogs have detected intruders. Hey, come here. Yes, they're good dogs. They keep me company and they keep me safe. So you can see it has kind of fixed itself to a piece of cardboard. If you did use wood, you might be stuck if you did what I did, because that's several threads deep, and that would anchor pretty well and maybe destroy your project. So if you do something like me and you're planning on filing down excessive metal, you know, that's up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we're going to get back with some painting. So here's another practical tip for you. Whenever you put screws in, you want to use what's called the star pattern. So basically you want to go across as much as you can instead of around the outside. The first couple I did, they weren't seated real well on the back end here. There'll be a little gap there, but I'll live with that. Also, I didn't screw this first screw in completely tight. It's going to leave me a little bit of room to snug things up later. So my next screw goes across as far as I can. So if you're using more than 4 screws, this would make a little bit more sense to you. But in this case, I think it illustrates the point well enough. Also, if your hand gets tired from screwing, you can kind of just do a little massage like this. You don't really work on that tempo quite as much, but it'll save your wrists in that carpal tunnel. You know, you got musicians and other people who work with their hands a lot. They like to preserve their hands for their work and their other projects. So then that second screw I went ahead and snugged up, and I'll snug up this first screw. And the other 2 should kind of be held tight naturally. So then we'll move on to painting. So here we are. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to grind these off. I'm not going to use my hand file. I've opted to use this grinding wheel. So this will generate sparks off the metal, so be sure that your area is clear of flammables. I have a little bit of tree over here, but I have a hose coming off the back of the house that'll keep you safe. We've got anchors keeping our piece in place so that it won't jump around while we're working. So for hot work, technically you should use these heavier duty welding gloves. They'll protect your wrists in case a spark comes up and bounces off your arm. It's less likely to fall into this gap in the glove here. And also you have a better chance if you take a jump. It protects a portion of your arm much better. And once again, safety glasses. So. Check my tool. It works. I forgot hearing protection. I'm gonna go get hearing protection. All right, I'm back. Got some basic earplugs. You can get these in any industrial job where it's loud. They'll basically hand them out. And when it comes to safety equipment, a lot of employers will allow you to take certain safety items, as it will benefit them through insurance at the long run. So, little twist, insert, and now I can't hear shit. Buzz back on. We're ready to go. So the sparks move away from me. accidentally brushed away some of my scraps. They will be hot. You can see them changing color while you're cutting. But I do want to pick up these scraps so they don't end up in the dog. Yeah, that's hot. But we'll just get them in a place where I can find them. Looks like the dog's on their own with those ones I accidentally brushed away. Yeah, there's the first one. You can see I did hit the wood a bit here. This one I did pretty good on. But here on the screw side, I'll probably put my lettering over here, and then it won't interfere with the image. So do that 2 more times and we'll be back for painting. So here we are, we're prepped to paint. Got some gloves on here to protect my beautiful nail job. It'll also just keep you from staining your hands and having weird, you know, if you work in food service or something, people are gonna be like, oh, what's that on your hand? I don't want that in my sandwich. So, gloves that are conforming to your skin type. Some people are allergic to latex. These are neoprene. If you're working indoors, it's important to use a respirator with organic filters on them. I'm outside here, so it's not super important, but I wanted to show it to you. And you might be saying to yourself, Wickers, are you a liar? Did you lie to me? I see 5 crosses here, not 3. Well, I have to admit, I've been lying to you, but I want to be able to share this this love I have with as many friends as I can. So I'm going to go ahead and make as many crosses as I can afford at this time. The cost for the spray paint can and the 5 pickets was $26 and change for me. Will cost me vary given the state of the economy when you watch this video. All right, so spray pan, you want to shake her up good, give her a good rattle. There's a little ball inside, and that is agitating the paint for you. And there's instructions on the can for this kind of stuff. It tells you about how long you're supposed to shake it for. I still got the glasses on. They can't hurt in case you backwards or something like that. But I'm going to forego the respirator for the purposes of this. And then you don't want to wear your favorite clothes when you're doing this. You might get some spray on them. So I hope you guys don't mind if I work with my tits out. And basically what you want to do is you want to go in an even stroke, and you want to hit kind of from here, so you hit that whole corner. So you're going to want to hit those corners from an outside, and if you start spraying just outside of your object and bring it in, you won't get runs and stuff like that. It'll be a nice even coat. Obviously it's to taste. If you don't care about runs, spray away. A little test there, she's working. And you just go back and forth like so. And go right across this way, and that way. And I just give her a little flip. Boom. So I'm trying to save the grass with this cardboard, but I missed a little bit there. It's important to keep moving if you want an even coat. If you stop at one spot, you're going to get a lot of buildup in that place. So once I've got that corner done well, come in. See, when I first hit the button, there's like a burst of paint, and that'll be visible to a discerning eye. And on these grainy surfaces, it's good to have your paint come in from a couple of directions, so to get in on a couple different angles on your coat. And if you're brave like me, touch your walls out with your gloves, and you get the back side. Go ahead and hit that corner again, or you'll get a bright spot right on that corner. We're going to give the ends a nice extra blast to help waterproof those. And I'm going to be driving these into the ground with the pointy end down. So you're going to want to coat that last foot a little bit extra. That'll help waterproof it and make it last longer for you. Obviously, this is all up to you. You don't want to waste the paint. Don't waste the paint, and replace the item in the nearer future. Go ahead and hit these joints a little extra too. Just a nice slop on the point here, especially near the top. Water is going to be see if my paint can last through 5 of these. So I'll do that 4 more times and we'll be ready for lettering. So while the video dries, I decided to figure out the spacing on my lettering. And basically what I did was I took the number of letters and divided by the space that I would need for each marking. There's an additional space in my vertical lettering, so I counted that. So above my beam, I'll have a total of 11 spaces for letters, but one of them will be open. And I represented that by 2-inch markings. The entire distance from the top of the H to the bottom of the E is 22 inches. So 11 divided by 2 is 2. So, or 22 divided by 2 is 11, right? So 2 inches for each horizontal. So I put an H here. Remember, this is the horizontal side, and this is just to make sure my letters are the height they need to be going down. On the vertical side, I have 11 letters with no space, but they're offset to the left because of the way I want the R to overlap. So what I had to do was, I had 24 inches for that whole beam, so I took 24 and divided it by 11, and I got 2.18 repeating, and 0.18 is very close to 1/8 of an inch. So I just did 2 1/8 spaces all the way down. So I've got my boundaries all set, and when you've got boundaries, you can pretty much let go. So yeah, we'll come back and then I'll freehand the letters, and our first one will be done. So I got one spot I missed. I didn't spray this edge here, so I came back to do that. Coincidentally, one can did get me through 3 crosses, 3.5 really, but I had to go back to the hardware store and get another one, do the last 2. But now I'll have just a little bit of black paint left. And when you're done using a spray paint can, if you just invert it, the straw inside is above the paint, and then you just let the propellant go, and you just spray until your spray clears up. There it is. Good enough. So here we are. This is the first one that was dry, and we're going to go ahead and start putting the lettering on. So I got this little spacer that I showed you before, and here's my horizontal side. I've got 11 spaces here, and then the last one X'd out so that I don't accidentally go too far. And I want the lettering to go right down to the base. So I'm going to start marking from the base up with my pencil here. I'm just going to make a little hash mark so I know how far apart they're supposed to be. And I come back and erase it later. And I suppose I could lay this thing next to the object while I work, but there's always a chance I'll bump it and then mess myself up. All right, so there's that side, and then the other side. Like I said, this was 2 1/8. If you get the 6-foot Picket, you can pretty much do what I did here. Assuming that you're going to bury a foot of it. And there we go. So now we've got our letter spacing, and I've got my little notebook here to remind me what the heck I'm supposed to be doing. We did a dry erase board project in the past, and I saved the can just in case it would come in handy, and sure enough, it's a nice bright white color that I'm looking for. We'll see how this stuff works. I do have some regular acrylic paint if I need it. So painting, I've got a glove, I've got a smock on, water to rinse my brush, a disposable rag. You can use any old rag if you like. And that's pretty much that. So now we start to create. Yes, let me see, make sure you guys got a good view. What's going on here? Do the whole shebang. Camera mounting needs work here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. You guys can kind of see, right? Yeah. That's probably good enough. Gonna go ahead and give this paint a little extra stir with my brush. I just shook it up on the way in, so it may still be a bit settled. You can use like a wooden stick like they give you at the paint store. But I'm just gonna go ahead and use my brush to stir that up. And I'll rinse my brush one more time. Get the weird goop off that might be down there. I just like to get the latent stuff off so it doesn't drip everywhere. And then the only real rule is 2-inch tall letters. And I'll try to make them nice and visible. The size of your brush does matter with the size of your lettering. This one's kind of a medium thickness. It's got a little curve on it, so I can do finer work with it if I want. I'm working sideways here, so it is a little weird, which is good. Gets you out of your comfort zone and is someplace where you might learn something. Hopefully not having to start over, but I've got 5 shots at this, so shouldn't be too bad. Lessons learned, when I was grinding those screw tips off, I was working on a plastic surface, so a couple of them did happen to melt into the surface just a bit. I had to pick them out so that nobody would sit down and cut their arm or something. In hindsight, I should have put like some leather down or something, like something non-flammable. So we're gonna have higher power, and then the R will go here where it will intersect. So space, and then a P. I did not do a clear coat after the black. I just want to kind of keep this as simple as I can, not use up too much stuff on it, and just kind of have fun with it. And then we play the W, my favorite. Watch that drip. They'll see that. All right, now make this work. I'm going to stick to the top side of this just a little bit. I'll let there be a space, but I want it to have a continuous appearance. So this has got to be under girder on that side. Got a nice long brush here. So it can work. Now we want to spell Derg, like my Dergs. Yes, this looks like it's going to work very nicely, this dry erase material. It's just a nice bright white color. I've miscalculated somewhere here. Yes. Well, I'm just going to do 2 skinny ones then. This R can just be like this. The nice thing about freehand is I can correct on the fly. The bad thing is I didn't see this coming. Under, let's go down here. But you know, when you make a mistake, it just kind of lets you show through in your work. This little improvisation. And on the next 4, I will have learned. I will be able to compensate. So something about my stencil went wrong, and I don't know what it was yet. I think I needed this whole thing shifted that way just a little bit. This D be a little lower so it looks kind of curved. Work with that mistake a little bit. Turn it into a happy mistake. Beautiful mistake. Just kind of plopping where I see I missed stuff. So like I was saying before, I did not clear coat this, so there is a chance that the paint underneath will mix with this what's on top here. I think the chances would have been higher if I used my regular acrylic paints, because the spray paint is an acrylic based paint, and my acrylic based are obviously acrylic. But I'm not sure what exactly this is. Probably also acrylic, but I don't know if the dry erase paint is acrylic or not. So it may be saving me a little bit on the coloration. I'm just kind of going right back. You don't normally do this, but it's porous. This wood is just sucking up this color. It's thirsty. There it is. That's pretty much it. Just gonna do a little bit more touching up here where I see the color coming through. Make sure that's nice and bright. People can read it real good. And you know, that lowercase g kind of makes me happy. It does. I didn't think it would be that good, but you know, sometimes a mistake is better than what you would have gotten if you'd planned. Not usually, but it does happen. But even your plans will go wrong. I mean, I did plan quite a bit. I tried real hard to make this do what I wanted it to, and you know, it kind of still did. So, hail me. All right, so I can wait for this to dry, but I say let's go and let's nail this sucker into the ground right now so we can close this thing up. I do have to work later, so we can all get out here, do our thing. There it is. Yes. I like it. I think I might do them all like that just because. Just because. Out into the blazing sun. You guys can sit in my little planter here and watch. That's good enough. Not wide enough. So I'm actually holding this thing onto with hair ties. It's not super effective. You can always edit this out in post. That looks pretty fucking good. There you go. And everybody can have one. So just a little something in post. I use the term guys to refer to everybody sometimes. I don't do it intentionally. It's just kind of a verbal habit. I mean friends, y'all folks, buddies, all of you. I love you, and hail yourself.